The fluorescent lights of California General's emergency room buzzed like angry insects at 2:47 a.m., blood soaked through the expensive Italian fabric of his shirt, dripping onto the sterile white floor in steady rhythm. Kang Min-Jae sat perfectly still on the examination table, his face carved from stone, showing nothing, not pain, not fear, not the rage simmering beneath his skin at the incompetence that had allowed an ambush. 5 years. For 5 years, he had been dead inside in ways that had nothing to do with the bullet currently lodged in his shoulder. The curtain ripped open and she walked in. Min-Jae's breath caught in his throat. She was stunning, deep brown skin that seemed to glow under the harsh hospital lights. Natural hair pulled back in a professional bun. Curves that her scrubs couldn't hide. But it wasn't just her beauty that hit him like a freight train. It was the way his body suddenly roared back to life. Heat flooded through him, starting low in his belly and spreading outward like wildfire. His heart slammed against his ribs. Blood rushed through veins that had been cold for half a decade. And lower, much lower, his body responded in ways he thought were impossible. Ways that made him grip the edge of the examination table hard enough to hurt. No. This couldn't be happening. Mr. Kang? Her voice was rich and warm, professional but kind. American accent with something underneath African, he thought. I'm Nurse Amara Chen. Let's take a look at that shoulder. She moved closer, and Min-Jae's entire body tensed. When her gloved fingers touched his bare skin to examine the wound, electricity shot through him so intense he actually flinched. Her brown eyes met his, concerned. I'm sorry. Did that hurt? Hurt? He wanted to laugh. He wanted to cry. For 5 years he had felt nothing. No physical sensation beyond the most basic. No desire, no arousal, no heat or need or hunger. The injury that should have killed him had stolen something more precious than his life. It had stolen his ability to feel human. But right now, with this stranger's hands on his skin, he felt everything. What did you do to me? The words came out harsh, almost accusatory. His hands were shaking. He never shook. Nurse Chen stepped back, her expression shifting from concern to wariness. Sir, I'm just examining your wound. You've been shot. The bullet needs to come out. And I haven't touched anyone in 5 years. His voice was raw, desperate. I haven't felt anything in 5 years. What did you do? Character introductions. Minutes 1 to 7. Amara Chen had been an ER nurse for 6 years. She had seen everything: gunshot wounds, stab wounds, overdoses, car accidents. She had treated gang members and CEOs, homeless people and celebrities. She prided herself on staying calm, professional, compassionate but detached. But the man sitting on her examination table was unlike anyone she had ever encountered. He was Korean, probably late 30s, with sharp features that would have been handsome if not for the coldness in his dark eyes. Even bleeding and in pain, he radiated danger, the kind of danger that made smart people walk away. His expensive suit was custom-tailored, his watch probably cost more than her car, and the 2 men waiting outside the examination area were clearly bodyguards. She knew what that meant. He wasn't a businessman. He was business, the kind that operated in shadows and violence. And he was staring at her like she had performed some kind of miracle. Sir, I need you to calm down, she said firmly, using her professional voice. You're in shock. Blood loss can cause confusion. Let me get the doctor and— No, doctor. His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop her from leaving. The contact sent another visible shudder through his body. Just you. I need you to stay. Amara looked down at where his hand circled her wrist. His grip was trembling. This powerful, dangerous man was shaking from touching her. Mr. Kang, you've been shot. You need medical attention from— 5 years ago, I was poisoned. His voice was quieter now, but no less intense. It should have killed me. The doctors saved my life, but the poison destroyed something in my nervous system. I lost the ability to feel physical pleasure, physical desire, anything beyond basic sensation. He was still holding her wrist, his thumb pressed against her pulse point. She could feel his hand trembling. I stopped sleeping with women because there was no point. My body was dead. The doctors said it was permanent, irreversible nerve damage. They told me to accept it. His eyes locked on hers, and she saw something in them that made her chest tighten, desperation mixed with wonder. But right now, touching you, I feel everything. Amara's medical training kicked in. Psychosomatic response. Possibly. Coincidental recovery of nerve function. Stress-induced adrenaline temporarily overriding damaged pathways. There were rational explanations. But the way he was looking at her made rational thought difficult. "I need to treat your wound," she said, gently pulling her wrist from his grip. The loss of contact made him inhale sharply. "After that, if you want to discuss your medical history, I can refer you to a neurologist who—" "I don't need a neurologist, I need you." He caught himself, seemed to realize how that sounded. "I need to understand what's happening. Why you? Why now?" Amara took a steadying breath. "Let me remove the bullet and close the wound. Then we can talk. But right now, you're losing blood, and that's my priority." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fine, but you don't leave. You do it yourself. I'm a nurse, not a surgeon. The doctor will. You." His voice left no room for argument. "Or I walk out of here right now." It was a terrible idea, against protocol, probably against several hospital regulations, but something in his eyes, that desperate, drowning look, made her hesitate. "I can clean and prep the wound," she said carefully, "but Dr. Morrison will have to do the extraction. That's non-negotiable." Min-Jae wanted to argue, wanted to demand that she and only she touch him, but he forced himself to think rationally. The bullet needed to come out. Infection was a real risk, and as much as his body was screaming at him to keep this woman close, to never let her leave, he couldn't be completely reckless. "Fine," he ground out, "but you stay in the room. I'll assist with the procedure. That's standard." She moved to gather supplies, and Min-Jae watched her with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable. Everything about her fascinated him, the efficient way she moved, the competent set of her shoulders, the gentle concern in her eyes despite clearly knowing he was dangerous. When she returned and began cleaning the wound, he had to close his eyes against the sensation. 5 years of nothing, and now every touch felt magnified 1,000 times. The antiseptic stung. Her gloved fingers were gentle but firm. The simple act of her caring for him created a tightness in his chest that had nothing to do with his injury. "This is going to hurt," she warned, beginning to probe the wound to assess depth. "I don't care." And he didn't. Pain meant feeling. Feeling meant he was alive again. She worked quickly and professionally, and he forced himself to stay still, to not grab her hand, to not pull her closer. But God, it took every ounce of control he had. "The bullet's not too deep," she said after a moment. "Dr. Morrison should be able to extract it easily. You're lucky a few centimeters to the left, and it would have hit the brachial artery." "Lucky," he repeated, and almost laughed. He had been shot, ambushed by a rival organization that was getting too bold. But sitting here, feeling this woman's hands on his skin, his body responding like a starving man at a feast, yeah, maybe he was lucky after all. "Doctor." Morrison came in 20 minutes later, a tired-looking man in his 50s who took one look at Min-Jae and sighed. "Another gunshot wound. You know I have to report this to the police." "Do what you have to do." Min-Jae's eyes never left Amara, who was standing by with supplies. The police report would disappear before morning. He had people for that. The extraction took 15 minutes. They offered him local anesthetic, which he accepted. They offered him pain medication, which he refused. He wanted to feel everything, even the pain, especially with Amara's hand steadying his shoulder, her touch the only thing keeping him grounded. When it was done, and she was bandaging the wound, her fingers gentle on his skin, Min-Jae made a decision. "I need to see you again," he said quietly. "Outside the hospital." Her hands paused in their work. "Mr. Kang, I don't think that's appropriate." "I'll pay you." Her head snapped up, eyes flashing with anger. "Excuse me?" That came out wrong. He ran his uninjured hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. 5 years of not caring about anything. And now, he couldn't find the right words. "I'm not trying to insult you. I need to understand what's happening to me. One dinner, one conversation, name your price." "I'm not for sale, Mr. Kang." Her voice was cold now, professional distance firmly back in place. "And I don't date patients. I'm not asking for a date. I'm asking for answers." He caught her wrist again gently this time, and felt that same electric jolt. "Please, just 1 hour of your time. I'll explain everything. I'll tell you about the poison, about what I've lost, about why this YU is impossible and miraculous and terrifying all at once." Amara looked down at where his hand circled her wrist. She should pull away, should report this to her supervisor, should have security escort this dangerous man out of her ER. But there was something in his eyes, something broken and desperate and real. 1 hour, she heard herself say. Coffee, somewhere public, and you keep your hands to yourself. The relief that flooded his face was almost painful to witness. Tomorrow night, I'll send a car to pick you up. What time do you finish your shift? I can meet you somewhere. You don't need to. Please. His thumb brushed across her pulse point, and she felt the tremor in his hand. Let me do this properly. I promise you'll be safe. 1 hour. Just talking. Against every instinct screaming that this was a bad idea, Amara nodded. 7 p.m. I finish at 6. Where do you live? I'll text you an address. She pulled her wrist free and finished bandaging his shoulder, trying to ignore how her hands were shaking now too. You're going to need antibiotics. And you should follow up with your regular doctor in a week to make sure there's no infection. I will. He would do whatever she said, would follow every instruction, anything to have a reason to see her again. She handed him prescription information and aftercare instructions, their fingers brushing during the exchange. He inhaled sharply at the contact. Tomorrow, he said. 7 p.m. Tomorrow, she agreed. After he left, surrounded by his guards, moving like a predator despite his injury, Amara stood in the empty examination room and tried to calm her racing heart. What had she just agreed to? Amara changed her clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a simple blue sweater. This wasn't a date, she kept telling herself. This was a conversation with a patient, former patient, who was clearly going through something medically significant. She had spent her entire shift researching nerve damage and psychosomatic recovery. The medical literature said spontaneous recovery from the kind of damage Min-Jae described was virtually impossible, but not completely impossible. There were documented cases of patients regaining function years after injury, usually triggered by some kind of neurological event. Maybe she had just happened to be there when his nervous system decided to heal itself. Coincidence, not causation. But that didn't explain the intensity in his eyes, the way he looked at her like she had hung the moon and stars. The black Mercedes arrived at exactly 7 p.m., pulling up in front of her modest apartment building in Koreatown. The driver who stepped out was young, Korean, and clearly one of Min-Jae's men based on the way he carried himself: alert, dangerous, respectful. Miss Chen, Mr. Kang is waiting. I'm Junho. Amara clutched her purse tighter. Last chance to back out. To text some excuse and go back inside where it was safe and normal and didn't involve Korean mafia bosses who claimed she had performed medical miracles. Instead, she got in the car. The drive took 20 minutes, winding through downtown LA until they pulled up in front of a small, elegant coffee shop in Little Tokyo. Through the windows, she could see it was empty, except for one man sitting at a corner table. Min-Jae. He stood when she entered, and she got her first real look at him outside the chaos of the ER. He wore dark slacks and a black button-down shirt that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His injured shoulder was clearly bothering him based on how carefully he moved, but his face showed nothing. What struck her most was how devastatingly handsome he was when he wasn't bleeding and in pain. Sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, perfectly styled black hair. He looked like he had stepped out of a Korean drama, if the drama was about organized crime instead of romance. Miss Chen, he gestured to the chair across from him. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. She sat down, noting that he had already ordered 2 cups of coffee on the table, plus an array of pastries. Did you buy out the entire coffee shop for the evening? I wanted privacy for this conversation. I hope that doesn't make you uncomfortable. It did, actually. Being alone with him felt dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with his criminal connections. But she had agreed to 1 hour, and she was going to see it through. You said you would explain everything, she said, wrapping her hands around the warm coffee cup. So explain. Min-Jae took a breath, clearly gathering his thoughts. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled, but she could hear the emotion underneath. 5 years ago, I was at a business dinner in Seoul. Someone I trusted, someone who worked for me for years, put poison in my wine. Industrial poison. The kind that destroys you from the inside out. He touched his chest, right over his heart. By the time I realized something was wrong, it was too late. I collapsed. My heart stopped twice in the ambulance. Amara listened, her medical training cataloging symptoms and likely toxins. What kind of poison? The doctors never identified it specifically. Some kind of neurotoxin mixed with other compounds. They said I was lucky to survive at all. His laugh was bitter. Lucky. I lived, but the poison destroyed nerve pathways throughout my body. Specifically, the ones connected to pleasure, desire, physical intimacy. You developed anhedonia, Amara said quietly. Inability to feel pleasure. Not just that. I could still feel pain, temperature, basic touch, but anything related to arousal, to desire, to sexual response gone, completely gone. He looked directly at her, his eyes holding hers. I went from having a normal, healthy sex drive to nothing. Like someone flipped a switch and turned off that part of my humanity. She could see the pain in his face, the years of frustration and loss. The doctors couldn't help? I saw specialists all over the world. Seoul, Tokyo, London, New York. They ran every test imaginable. The nerve damage was permanent, they said. Irreversible. I tried medications, therapies, treatments. Nothing worked. His hands clenched on the table. I stopped trying after the first year. Accepted that this was my life now. That must have been devastating. It was worse than devastating. It made me less than human. I couldn't connect with people. Couldn't feel the things that make life worth living. I became colder, more ruthless in my business. If I couldn't feel anything, why not embrace the darkness completely? Amara took a sip of her coffee, processing this. And then, last night in the ER, last night you walked through that curtain and my entire body came back online. His voice was rough with emotion. When you touched me, I felt heat for the first time in 5 years. Desire, need. My heart actually raced, and lower. He stopped, clearly trying to maintain some dignity. I had a physical response that the doctors swore was impossible. She felt heat rise to her cheeks. Mr. Kang. Min-Jae. Please call me Min-Jae. Min-Jae, then. What you're describing could be a spontaneous recovery. Nerve pathways can sometimes heal themselves over time, and it's not spontaneous recovery. He leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. I've touched other women in the past 5 years. Tried to force some kind of response. Nothing. Complete absence of feeling. But you just being near you makes my skin feel alive. When you touch me, it's like electricity. That's not medically possible. I know, but it's happening. He reached across the table slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he placed his hand over hers. Feel that? She did. A warmth that spread from the point of contact, making her pulse quicken. His hand was trembling slightly. I feel everything, he said quietly. Your warmth, your pulse, the softness of your skin. 5 years of nothing, and now I feel everything. Amara gently pulled her hand away, needing space to think. There has to be a rational explanation. Maybe I have some kind of pheromone profile that triggers. I don't care about the rational explanation. Min-Jae's voice was fierce. I care that for the first time in 5 years, I feel human again. And it's because of you. They sat in silence for a moment. Amara's mind raced through possibilities, medical and otherwise. This didn't make sense. But the emotion in his eyes was real. The trembling in his hands was real. Whatever was happening, he genuinely believed she was somehow responsible for his recovery. Tell me about yourself, Min-Jae said, breaking the silence. I know your name is Amara Chen. I know you're a nurse at California General. But I want to know more. Where are you from? How did you end up in LA? That's a long story. We have time. Please. Something in his voice, the genuine interest, the need to know her as a person, made her relax slightly. My father was Chinese American. My mother is from Kenya. They met in medical school in San Francisco. I was born here, but we moved to Nairobi when I was 10 because my mother wanted to practice medicine in her home country. That's where your accent comes from. I couldn't quite place it. I lived in Kenya until I was 22. Got my nursing degree there, then came back to the States for better opportunities. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup again. My mother wanted me to become a doctor, but nursing called to me more. I like the direct patient care, the hands-on healing. Healing, Min-Jae repeated. Maybe that's what you're doing to me. Healing something the doctors couldn't fix. I'm not a miracle worker. I'm just a nurse who happened to be on shift when you came in. You're more than that. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. I can feel it. Amara shifted uncomfortably. Min-Jae, I need to be honest with you. This situation, you and me, whatever this is, it's not appropriate. You were my patient. There are ethical boundaries, and I'm not your patient anymore. It's been 1 day. I don't care if it's been 1 minute. You're not my nurse right now. We're just 2 people having coffee. He leaned back, clearly trying to give her space. I'm not asking you to cross any boundaries you're not comfortable with. I just want to understand what's happening to me. And maybe spend time with the person who made me feel alive again. You don't know anything about me. You don't know if I'm even a good person. I know you're a healer. I know you were kind to me, even though you could clearly see I was dangerous. I know you agreed to meet me when you had every reason to say no." His voice softened. "I know that when you touch me, I feel hope for the first time in 5 years. That's enough." Amara felt something twist in her chest. This was dangerous territory. He was dangerous not just because of what he clearly was. She wasn't naive enough to miss the signs of organized crime, but because of what he made her feel. There was something magnetic about his intensity, his desperation, his raw honesty about his condition. She had spent 6 years as an ER nurse maintaining professional distance from patients, but Min-Jae was breaking through those walls with embarrassing ease. "Tell me about your work," she said, deliberately changing the subject. "What is it you do, exactly?" Min-Jae's expression shifted, became more guarded. "I run an import-export business. Shipping, logistics, international trade. That's the official answer. What's the real answer?" He studied her for a long moment. "Why do you want to know?" "Because if we're going to continue these conversations, I need to understand what I'm getting into." "I'm not stupid, Min-Jae. The guards, the gunshot wound, the way you made the police report disappear, I know you're not a legitimate businessman." "No," he admitted. "I'm not. So tell me the truth." Min-Jae was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing how much to reveal. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and serious. "My father ran a Korean organized crime syndicate in Seoul. When I was 25, he was killed by a rival group. I took over, moved operations to LA where there was more opportunity. I expanded shipping routes, protection services, some gray area imports. Gray area meaning illegal. Yes." He didn't flinch from it. "I'm not going to lie to you, Amara. I've done terrible things. Hurt people. Killed people who threatened me or my organization. I operate in a world where violence is currency and weakness gets you murdered." She should stand up right now, walk out. This was exactly the kind of man she should stay far away from. But she didn't move. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Most criminals don't just confess to crimes. Because you deserve honesty. And because—" He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "Because I'm trying to be better. The past 5 years, being numb, I stopped caring about right and wrong. I became the monster everyone already thought I was. But right now, sitting here with you, feeling things again, I want to be better than that. You can't just decide to stop being a criminal. I can transition to legitimate business. I have enough money, enough connections. It would take time, but I could do it." His eyes locked on hers. "If I had a reason to." The implication hung in the air between them. "You could be my reason." Amara's heart raced. This was insane. She had known this man for less than 24 hours. He was a confessed criminal. He was dangerous in every possible way. But God help her, she was intrigued. "I need to know something," she said carefully. "This feeling you get when you're near me, when I touch you, is it just physical? Just about regaining your sexual function?" "No." His answer was immediate and fierce. "It's everything. When I'm near you, food tastes better, colors seem brighter. I can feel joy again, not just arousal. You didn't just wake up my body, Amara. You woke up my soul." She believed him. That was the terrifying part, she actually believed him. "I don't know what to do with this," she admitted. "I don't know what you're asking from me. I'm asking for time. For a chance to explore whatever this is between us. No pressure, no expectations. Just, let me take you to dinner. Let me get to know you. Let me figure out if this miracle is temporary or permanent. And if it's temporary, if your symptoms come back," pain flashed across his face, "then at least I'll have had this. A few moments of feeling alive again. That's more than I ever expected to have." Amara looked at this dangerous, broken man sitting across from her, and made a decision that was probably incredibly stupid. 1 week, she said. "You have 1 week to convince me this is worth the risk. We'll have dinner, spend time together, and I'll monitor your symptoms from a medical perspective. After 1 week, I'll decide if we continue or if I walk away completely." Relief flooded his face. 1 week, I'll take it. "Ground rules," she continued firmly. "First, you're honest with me. Always. About your business, about your symptoms, about everything. No lies, no games." "Agreed." "Second, you don't push for more than I'm ready to give. This is an exploration, not a relationship. If I say stop, you stop. Of course." "Third, you keep me safe. If your world is as dangerous as you say, I don't want to end up as collateral damage in some gang war. I would die before I let anyone hurt you." The fierceness in his voice made her shiver. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." She took a breath. "One more thing. I want to run some medical tests. Blood work, neurological scans. If there's a physiological explanation for what's happening to you, we should understand it." Min-Jae hesitated. "You think there's something wrong with me, beyond what the poison did?" "I think there's something unusual happening. And as a medical professional, I want to understand it. Will you let me? If it means spending more time with you, I'll do whatever you want." They spent the next hour talking, really talking. Min-Jae told her about growing up in Seoul, about the pressure of inheriting his father's empire, about the loneliness of his position. Amara shared stories about her childhood in Kenya, about her parents' medical missions, about why healing mattered so much to her. It was easy, natural. The conversation flowed like they had known each other for years, instead of hours. When Junho finally knocked on the window to indicate it was getting late, Amara was surprised to find 3 hours had passed. "I should get you home," Min-Jae said reluctantly. "You have work tomorrow." "I do." She gathered her purse. "Same time tomorrow? We can grab dinner, and I'll explain what tests I want to run." "Anywhere you want. Just name the place." They stood, and Min-Jae moved closer, not threatening, just present. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for giving me this chance. For not running when you had every reason to." "Ask me again in a week if you should be thanking me," Amara said. "I might end up breaking your heart. I don't think I have much of a heart left to break. But you're welcome to try." The drive back to her apartment was quiet. Amara stared out the window, wondering what the hell she had just gotten herself into. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend Kira, who was also an ER nurse. "How was coffee with the hot criminal? Are you still alive?" Amara had told Kira where she was going, safety precaution. Now she typed back, "Still alive. Having dinner with him tomorrow. Please don't tell me I'm being an idiot." Kira's response was immediate. "You're being an idiot, but also, live your life. Just maybe tell someone where you are at all times." Amara smiled despite herself. Yeah, she was probably being an idiot. But for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt genuinely excited about something. When she got home, she found a package waiting outside her door. Inside was the most beautiful bouquet of flowers she had ever seen. African proteas mixed with Korean orchids, 2 cultures blending into something stunning. The card read, "Thank you for seeing me as more than a patient. Thank you for giving me hope. MJ." Amara set the flowers on her kitchen table and stared at them for a long time. 1 week. She had given him 1 week to prove this was real. God help them both. The next evening, Min-Jae chose a small Korean restaurant in Koreatown for their dinner, elegant but intimate, with private booths that offered both comfort and discretion. He arrived early, nervous in a way he hadn't been in years. Nervous like a teenager on his first date, which was ridiculous. He was 38 years old. He ran a criminal empire. He had killed men with his bare hands. But the thought of Amara walking away after their week was up made his chest tight with fear. She arrived exactly on time, wearing a dark green dress that hugged her curves and made her skin glow. Min-Jae stood when she approached, and had to physically restrain himself from pulling her into his arms. "You look beautiful," he said. "You clean up pretty well yourself." She slid into the booth across from him. "How's your shoulder?" "Healing. You did good work." "I just cleaned it, doctor." Morrison did the actual extraction. "You kept me calm. That was the important part." A server appeared with water and menus. Min-Jae ordered in Korean a selection of dishes he thought she might like. When the server left, Amara raised an eyebrow. "Did you just order for me without asking?" Min-Jae caught himself. "I'm sorry. That was presumptuous. We can order something else if—" "Relax," she smiled. "I'm teasing. I trust your judgment on Korean food. I've only had it a few times." He relaxed slightly. "I'll make sure you try the best." They fell into easy conversation while waiting for the food. Amara pulled out her phone and showed him a list of medical tests she wanted to run: neurological scans, hormone panels, blood work to check for lingering toxins. "This is pretty comprehensive," Min-Jae said, scrolling through. "You really think we'll find something?" "I think if your nervous system is regenerating, we should document it. And if there's another explanation, some kind of chemical reaction between us, pheromones, anything, we should understand it. What if there is no scientific explanation? What if it's just you? Then we'll deal with that when we know for sure." She took a sip of water. I've arranged for you to come to the hospital on Saturday. We can run everything then. I'll be there." The food arrived: bulgogi, japchae, kimchi, jjigae, and several other dishes that filled the table. Amara's eyes widened. "This is enough food for 10 people. I wanted you to try everything." Min-Jae began serving her, placing small portions of each dish on her plate. "Start with the bulgogi. It's my favorite." She took a bite, and her eyes closed in pleasure. "Oh my God, that's amazing." Watching her enjoy the food he had chosen sent warmth through Min-Jae's chest. Such a simple thing, sharing a meal, but it felt profound. 5 years of eating without tasting, of existing without enjoying, and now every moment with her felt like discovering life again. "Tell me something nobody else knows about you," Amara said suddenly. "What?" "Something secret. Something you don't share with people." She met his eyes. "You know all my professional boundaries. You know I'm risking my career and possibly my safety by being here. Give me something real in return." Min-Jae set down his chopsticks, considering. "I wanted to be a doctor." "Really? When I was young, before my father's world consumed everything, I was fascinated by medicine, by healing. I used to read medical textbooks, watch surgery videos." He smiled sadly. "My father laughed when I told him. Said the son of a gangster doesn't get to save lives. He takes them." "That must have hurt." "It did. I gave up that dream and learned the family business instead. Became exactly what he wanted me to be." Min-Jae looked at his hands that had hurt so many people. "Sometimes I wonder who I would have been if I had made different choices." "It's not too late to make different choices now, isn't it? I'm 38, Amara. I've been a criminal for 15 years. I've done things that can't be undone. But you can choose what you do next." She reached across the table and touched his hand. The contact made him inhale sharply. "You said I make you want to be better. So be better." The challenge in her eyes ignited something in him. She was right. If he wanted to be worthy of her, of this second chance at feeling human, he needed to actually change, not just talk about it. "I've already started," he said. "I had a meeting this morning with my lawyers. We're beginning the process of transitioning my operations to legitimate business. It'll take time, but—" "You're serious?" Wonder filled her voice. "You're actually doing it. I told you. You make me want to be better." His hand turned under hers, fingers intertwining. "I can't promise I'll become a saint overnight, but I can promise I'm trying." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, hands still linked across the table. Min-Jae marveled at how natural this felt, like they had been doing this for years. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said eventually. "Anything. In the past 5 years, when your body wasn't responding, did you still want to connect with people? Emotionally, I mean?" Min-Jae considered the question carefully. "No. The physical numbness bled into emotional numbness. I stopped wanting connection of any kind. It hurt less to feel nothing than to want something I couldn't have. And now? Now I want everything." His grip on her hand tightened. "I want to know everything about you. Your favorite color, your childhood dreams, what makes you laugh. I want to hear about your day and tell you about mine. I want." He stopped, almost afraid to say it. "What?" she prompted gently. "I want to touch you. Not just your hand. I want to know what it feels like to hold you, to kiss you, to—" He cut himself off. "I'm sorry. That's too much." "No." Amara's voice was quiet but firm. "Don't apologize for wanting things. You've been denied want for 5 years. That's—" She shook her head. "I can't imagine what that was like. It was hell. But this sitting here with you, feeling your hand in mine, wanting things again, this is heaven." After dinner, Min-Jae walked her to his car. The night was cool, LA traffic humming in the background. When they reached the Mercedes, he turned to face her. "I don't want this evening to end," he admitted. "It's a weeknight. I have work tomorrow." "I know, but still." He stepped closer, and she didn't back away. "Can I try something?" "What?" "This." He raised his hand slowly, giving her time to refuse, and cupped her face. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. The sensation was overwhelming. Soft skin, warm under his palm, the flutter of her pulse visible in her throat. 5 years of touching nothing, and now every cell in his body was screaming with awareness. "How does that feel?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Like I'm on fire. Like every nerve ending is awake for the first time." His other hand came up to frame her face. "Like I'm finally alive." Amara's hands rose to rest on his chest. Even through his shirt, her touch burned. "Min-Jae?" I want to kiss you. The confession came out raw. God, I want to kiss you so badly, but I won't. Not until you're ready. Not until you want it too. I'm not ready, she said. But her eyes dropped to his mouth, contradicting her words. Then I'll wait. He pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in. I'll wait as long as it takes. They stood like that for a long moment, touching, breathing together, balanced on the edge of something profound. Finally, Amara stepped back. I should go. I know. He opened the car door for her. Same time tomorrow. You're very persistent. I have 1 week to convince you. I'm not wasting a single day. She laughed, a real, genuine laugh that made his heart soar. Okay. Tomorrow. But somewhere different. Surprise me. I will. The drive to her apartment felt too short. When they arrived, Min-Jae walked her to her door like a gentleman. Thank you for tonight, Amara said, key in hand. I had a really good time. So did I. He caught her hand one more time, brought it to his lips. The kiss to her knuckles was chaste, but the look in his eyes was anything but. Sweet dreams, Amara. You too, Min-Jae. He waited until she was safely inside before returning to his car. Junho gave him a knowing look in the rearview mirror. She's special, this one, Junho said in Korean. She is, Min-Jae agreed. She's everything. That night, alone in his penthouse, Min-Jae stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking LA and let himself feel. Really feel. The ache in his chest that was hope mixed with fear. The heat in his blood that was desire mixed with need. The tight feeling in his throat that might have been the beginning of love. 5 years of nothing. And now Amara Chen had walked into his life and set everything on fire. He would do whatever it took to keep her, to deserve her, to prove to her that what they had was worth the risk. Starting tomorrow, he was going to show her exactly how serious he was about changing his life. For her, for them, for the future he suddenly desperately wanted. Saturday morning arrived with fog rolling in from the ocean, blanketing Los Angeles in gray mist. Min-Jae stood outside California General Hospital at 8 a.m. sharp, exactly when Amara had told him to arrive. He wore dark jeans and a simple black sweater, the most casual clothes he owned, trying to look less like a crime lord and more like a regular patient. Junho waited in the car, along with 2 other guards Min-Jae had insisted on bringing. He wasn't taking chances with Amara's safety, even at a hospital. His phone buzzed. A text from Amara. I'm in the neurology department, 4th floor. Come up when you're ready. He was ready. More than ready. The past 3 days with her had been the best of his life. They had gone to an art museum on Wednesday, Amara's choice. She had stood in front of paintings explaining color theory and composition while Min-Jae watched her face light up with passion. Thursday had been his choice, a cooking class where they made pasta from scratch. He had been terrible at it, flour everywhere. But Amara had laughed so hard she cried, and the sound had been worth any embarrassment. Last night they had simply walked along Venice Beach, talking until the sun set. He had held her hand the entire time, marveling at how something so simple could feel so monumental. And through it all, his body had remained gloriously, impossibly alive. Every touch sent electricity through him. Every smile from her made his heart race. He was experiencing life in Technicolor after 5 years of grayscale. Now it was time to find out why. The neurology department was quiet on a Saturday morning. Amara met him in the hallway, wearing scrubs and her professional demeanor, though her eyes softened when she saw him. Right on time, she said. Ready to be a science experiment? As ready as I'll ever be. She led him to a private examination room, where another doctor waited, an older Korean man with kind eyes and graying hair. Min-Jae, this is Dr. Park Jin-woo. He's one of the best neurologists in California, and he's agreed to consult on your case. I've explained your medical history, and he's reviewed your records from Seoul. Dr. Park bowed slightly. Mr. Kang, I must say, your case is fascinating. Nurse Chen showed me the documentation from your original poisoning. The fact that you're alive at all is remarkable. So I've been told. And now you're experiencing spontaneous recovery of neurological function after 5 years of complete anhedonia and sexual dysfunction. Doctor. Park's expression was professionally skeptical. Forgive me, but that's medically unprecedented. I know how it sounds, Min-Jae said, but it's true. We'll see what the tests show. Dr. Park gestured to the examination table. Let's start with a basic neurological exam, then move to the scans. The next 2 hours were exhausting. Dr. Park tested Min-Jae's reflexes, sensory responses, cognitive function, drew blood for a comprehensive panel, Asked questions about his symptoms when they started, what triggered them, how intense they were. Min-Jae answered honestly, though it was embarrassing to discuss his sexual dysfunction with strangers. But Amara stayed beside him the entire time, her presence grounding him. "And you say these symptoms only occur in proximity to Nurse Chen?" Dr. Park asked, making notes. "Specifically when she touches me, or when she's very close." "Interesting. And if she leaves the room?" "They tested it." Amara stepped outside for 5 minutes. Almost immediately, Min-Jae felt the numbness creeping back. Not complete, but a definite dimming of sensation. His heart rate slowed. The hyper-awareness faded. When she returned and touched his hand, everything roared back to life. Dr. Park's eyebrows rose. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. The MRI was next, then a PET scan to measure brain activity. Min-Jae lay perfectly still in the machines while they mapped his neural pathways, trying to understand what the poison had destroyed and what impossibly seemed to be rebuilding. By the time they finished, it was past noon. Min-Jae was exhausted, hungry, and desperate for answers. "We'll need a few days to analyze all the data, Doctor," Park said. "But I can tell you preliminary observations. Your brain activity is significantly elevated compared to your baseline scans from 5 years ago. The areas associated with pleasure, reward, and arousal, which showed almost no activity in your previous scans, are now lighting up like a Christmas tree. So I'm healing? That's one interpretation. Another is that something or someone is acting as a catalyst, temporarily stimulating dormant pathways." "Doctor," Park looked between Min-Jae and Amara. "I'd like to run one more test, if you're both willing." "What kind of test?" Amara asked. "I want to monitor Mr. Kang's brain activity while you touch him. See exactly what happens on a neurological level during physical contact." Amara hesitated. "That feels very intimate." "It's for science," Dr. Park said mildly. "But I understand if you're uncomfortable." Min-Jae looked at Amara, leaving the choice to her. She bit her lip, thinking, then nodded. "Okay, for science." They set up the portable EEG, attaching electrodes to Min-Jae's scalp. The monitor showed his baseline brain activity normal, calm, slightly elevated from being near Amara, but nothing dramatic. "All right, Nurse Chen. Please touch Mr. Kang's hand." Amara stepped forward and placed her hand over Min-Jae's. The effect was immediate and visible on the monitor. Multiple areas of his brain exploded with activity: the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, the sensory processing centers. "My God," Dr. Park breathed. I've never seen anything like that." "What does it mean?" Min-Jae asked, his voice rough. Amara's touch was making it hard to concentrate on anything else. "It means her physical contact is triggering a massive neurological response, not just in pleasure centers, but in areas associated with bonding, emotional attachment, even survival instinct." "Doctor," Park adjusted his glasses, staring at the screen. "Mr. Kang, your brain is responding to Nurse Chen like she's essential to your survival, like she's oxygen." Amara pulled her hand back, and the brain activity immediately decreased. "That's not possible. The data doesn't lie." Dr. Park saved the readings. "I'll need to consult with colleagues, review the literature, but my preliminary assessment is that you've somehow become neurologically dependent on her presence and touch. Not psychologically dependent, though that may also be happening, but actual, measurable, physiological dependence." Min-Jae felt something cold settle in his chest. "What happens if she stops touching me? If she goes away? Based on these readings? I suspect your symptoms would return. The numbness, the anhedonia, all of it." Dr. Park's expression was sympathetic. "Your brain has essentially rewired itself around her as a stimulus. Remove the stimulus, and the old patterns reassert themselves." The room fell silent. Min-Jae processed this information, trying to understand what it meant. He wasn't healing. This wasn't spontaneous recovery. Amara wasn't a catalyst for his healing, she was the treatment itself. Without her, he would go back to being the empty shell he'd been for 5 years. "So I'm addicted to her," he said flatly. "Neurologically addicted. That's an oversimplification, but not entirely inaccurate." Amara looked stricken. "This is my fault. I did this to you." "No." Min-Jae caught her hand. The brain monitor spiked again. "You saved me. You gave me life again. But you're dependent on me. That's not healthy. That's not—" "I don't care." His grip tightened. "I don't care if it's addiction or dependence or some kind of medical anomaly. For 5 years I was dead inside. Now I'm alive. Because of you. Dr. Park cleared his throat. I should give you two some privacy. I'll have a full report in 3 days. In the meantime, he looked at Amara seriously. Nurse Chen, I would advise against sudden separation. Based on these readings, abrupt withdrawal could be psychologically traumatic for Mr. Kang. After Dr. Park left, Min-Jae and Amara sat in silence. The EEG electrodes were still attached to his head, the monitor still showing his elevated brain activity with her in the room. Say something, Min-Jae finally said. I don't know what to say. This changes everything. Why? Because you don't have a choice now. Her voice was anguished. You need me. Physically need me. That's not the same as wanting me. I do want you. How can you know that? How can either of us know what's real when your brain is literally dependent on my touch? She pulled her hand from his, and he felt the immediate loss. This isn't a relationship, Min-Jae. This is a medical condition. He stood up, yanking the EEG electrodes off his head. Don't do that. Don't reduce what we have to brain chemistry. But that's what it is. The scans prove it. The scans prove that you affect me neurologically. They don't prove that's all there is. He moved closer, and she stepped back. Amara, I'm falling in love with you. Not because my brain lights up when you touch me, but because you're brilliant and kind and you make me laugh. Because you challenge me to be better. Because when I'm with you, I feel like the man I was supposed to be before life twisted me into something dark. You don't know if those feelings are real, or if they're just your brain's response to, they're real. He was desperate now, could feel her slipping away. I know the difference between physical response and emotional connection. What I feel for you is both. Amara wrapped her arms around herself. I need time to think about this, about what it means. Your week isn't up yet. You promised me 7 days. That was before I knew you were neurologically dependent on me. Before I knew that walking away could hurt you. Tears filled her eyes. I don't want that kind of power over you, Min-Jae. I don't want you to need me like a drug. Too late. I already do. He reached for her, then stopped himself. But I want you too. I choose you. Dependency or not, I choose this. Choose us. I need space to process this. Please. Everything in him screamed to refuse, to keep her close, to not let her leave when she was the only thing keeping him alive. But he forced himself to nod. How much space? A few days, until Dr. Park sends the full report. And then we figure out what to do. She grabbed her purse. I'm sorry, Min-Jae. I really am. She left before he could respond. Min-Jae stood in the empty examination room, feeling the numbness creep back in subtle but present. His heart rate slowed. Colors seemed duller. The world felt flat again. Without her, he was dying. 3 days later, Tuesday evening. Min-Jae hadn't contacted Amara since Saturday, though it took every ounce of willpower he possessed. The numbness had returned in full force, not as complete as before, like his brain remembered what it was like to feel and was reaching for it, but close enough to be agonizing. Food tasted like ash. Sleep was impossible. He moved through his days like a ghost, handling business mechanically, feeling nothing. His organization noticed. Sunho pulled him aside on Tuesday afternoon. Boss, you need to see the nurse, Sunho said in Korean. You're getting worse. She needs space. You need her more than she needs space. Sunho's expression was worried. I've never seen you like this. Not even in the worst of the past 5 years. Because now I know what I'm missing. Before, I didn't remember what feeling was like. Now I do, and losing it again is hell. That evening, Min-Jae was in his penthouse office reviewing shipping manifests when his security system alerted him to movement in the lobby. Junho's voice came through his earpiece immediately. Boss, we have a situation. 3 men just entered the building. Not ours. They're armed. Min-Jae's blood went cold. Amara's building? No, boss. Yours. Lock it down. I'm coming. He grabbed his gun from the desk drawer and moved toward the door. Before he reached it, it exploded inward. 3 men in black tactical gear rushed in, weapons raised. Min-Jae fired twice, dropping the first one. The second one got a shot off that grazed Min-Jae's ribs. He felt the pain distantly, the numbness dulling it. He returned fire, hitting the man in the shoulder. The third man tackled him before he could shoot again. They went down hard, fighting for control of the gun. Min-Jae felt ribs crack his or his opponent's. He couldn't tell. Everything was happening in slow motion, the numbness making him sluggish. Then Junho and 2 other guards burst in. Gunfire erupted. When the smoke cleared, all 3 attackers were down. 1 dead, 2 bleeding but alive. "Boss, are you hurt?" Junho hauled Min-Jae to his feet. Min-Jae looked down at the blood soaking his shirt. "I'm shot. Ribs may be broken. I can't really feel it. Hospital. Now." "No. Not California General." He couldn't face Amara like this. Couldn't use his injury to manipulate her into coming back. Dr. Kim. The private clinic. They took him to a discreet medical facility that Min-Jae's organization used for injuries they didn't want reported. Dr. Kim, a former trauma surgeon who asked no questions, patched him up efficiently. The bullet had gone through cleanly, missing anything vital. 2 cracked ribs, bruised kidney, minor lacerations. He'd heal, physically, at least. "You're not responding to pain normally," Dr. Kim observed while stitching. "Your vitals are off. Heart rate too low, blood pressure erratic. Old condition. I'm fine." "You're not fine. But I know better than to argue with you." Dr. Kim finished the stitches. "Rest for a week, no strenuous activity, and consider seeing a real doctor about whatever's going on with your nervous system." Min-Jae went home and immediately called Sunho. "The men who attacked me. Are they talking?" "Not yet, but we'll make them. I want to know who sent them and why. This was too coordinated to be random." "I'll handle it, boss. You rest." But Min-Jae couldn't rest. His mind was racing despite his body's numbness. Someone had found out about his weakness. Someone knew that without Amara, he was vulnerable. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Kang." A man's voice, American accent, unfamiliar. "I hope you're recovering from this evening's excitement. Who is this?" "Someone who knows your secret. You've been spending time with a nurse from California General. Amara Chen. Beautiful woman. It would be a shame if something happened to her." Every muscle in Min-Jae's body tensed. "If you touch her, you'll what?" "You can barely function without her. I've done my research, Mr. Kang. I know about your condition. I know she's your weakness." The man's voice was smug. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw from the port operations in Long Beach. Sign over your contracts to me. In exchange, I won't hurt your little nurse. I don't negotiate with terrorists. Then she dies. Simple as that." A pause. "You have 24 hours to decide. Withdraw from Long Beach, or I kill the woman you need to survive." The line went dead. Min-Jae sat in frozen silence. Someone knew. Someone had figured out that Amara was his lifeline and was using her as leverage. He immediately called Sunho back. "I need security on Amara Chen, round the clock. She doesn't know, but I need her protected." "What happened?" Min-Jae explained the phone call. Sunho cursed in Korean. "This is Marcus Chen's style. He's been trying to muscle into your territory for months. If he knows about the nurse, then he knows exactly how to hurt me." Min-Jae's mind raced. "Put our best people on her. I want eyes on her apartment, her hospital, everywhere she goes, and find out everything about Marcus Chen's operations. If he wants a war, I'll give him one." After Sunho left to organize security, Min-Jae sat in the darkness of his penthouse and faced the truth. By staying away from Amara, he had made himself vulnerable. His enemies had noticed, and now she was in danger because of him. He had to warn her, had to protect her, even if it meant breaking his promise to give her space. He grabbed his phone and texted, "We need to talk. You're in danger." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her response. "What kind of danger? My enemies know about you. They're threatening you to get to me. I have security on you already, but you need to know." A long pause. Then, "Come over. We need to talk face to face." Min-Jae was in his car within minutes, driven by Junho with 2 other guards following. The 30-minute drive to Amara's apartment felt like hours. His ribs ached, his side burned from the gunshot, but all he could think about was getting to her, making sure she was safe. When she opened her apartment door, he almost collapsed with relief. She was there, whole, unharmed, and just seeing her face made the numbness recede slightly, like clouds parting to show sun. "My God, what happened to you?" She pulled him inside, her eyes taking in the bruises visible on his neck, the way he moved carefully to protect his ribs. "I was attacked tonight. 3 men, in my building. Are you hurt? Did you go to the hospital?" "I'm fine. It's handled." He caught her hands, needing the contact. The moment their skin touched, sensation flooded back, pain from his injuries, but also warmth, awareness, life. You're what matters. You're in danger because of me. Amara led him to her couch, made him sit. Her apartment was small but cozy, nothing like his sterile penthouse. Books everywhere, photos on the walls, plants in the windows. It felt like a home. "Tell me everything," she said. So he did. The attack, the phone call, the ultimatum. She listened with growing alarm. "This Marcus Chen, who is he?" "A rival. He's been trying to take over my port operations for months. I've been blocking him at every turn." Min-Jae leaned forward, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "He figured out about you. About what you mean to me. He's using you as leverage." "How did he figure it out?" "I don't know. Maybe my men talked. Maybe he had surveillance. It doesn't matter. What matters is you're a target now." Amara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "What are you going to do?" "Protect you. I have my best guards watching you already. You won't go anywhere without security. I mean about the ultimatum. About Long Beach." Min-Jae looked at her in disbelief. "You think I would choose business over your life? I think you've spent 15 years building an empire. I think walking away from it isn't that simple. Watch me." He stood up despite the pain, started pacing. "I'll give him Long Beach. I'll give him everything he wants. Your life is worth more than any amount of money or territory. Min-Jae, you can't just—" "I can and I will." He turned to face her. "Don't you understand? You're not just important to me. You're essential. Without you, I go back to being that empty shell. With you, I'm alive. So yes, I will burn my entire empire to the ground if it means keeping you safe." Amara stood too, moving close to him. "The test results came back this morning. Dr. Park sent them to me. And they confirm what we saw on Saturday. Your neurological dependence on me is real and measurable. But there's more." She pulled out her phone, showed him graphs and medical terminology he didn't fully understand. The scans show evidence of actual neural regeneration, new pathways forming in areas that were damaged by the poison. "What does that mean?" "It means you might actually be healing. Slowly, but healing. My presence seems to be stimulating neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself." She looked up at him. "Min-Jae, if this continues, you might eventually recover completely. You might not need me anymore." The possibility should have filled him with joy. Instead, he felt panic. "What if I don't want to not need you?" "What? What if this started because of brain chemistry? But it's become more than that. What if I'm falling in love with you for real? Not just because you make my neurons fire." He cupped her face in his hands, felt that familiar electricity. "These past 3 days without you were hell. Not just because of the numbness, but because I missed you. Your voice, your laugh, the way you challenge me. Min-Jae, I know the timing is terrible. I know you're processing all of this. I know I'm asking too much. But I need you to know whatever happens with my condition, whatever these tests show, what I feel for you is real." Amara's hands came up to rest on his chest. Even through his shirt, her touch burned. "I've been doing a lot of thinking the past 3 days," she said quietly. "About you, about us, about what all of this means. And I'm scared, terrified, actually, of your world, of the danger, of the responsibility of being essential to your survival." She looked up at him. "But I'm also falling for you. Against all logic and reason, I'm falling for you." Hope bloomed in his chest. "Yeah?" "Yeah." A small smile. "You're arrogant and dangerous and you come from a world I don't understand. But you're also honest and vulnerable, and you look at me like I hung the moon. How am I supposed to resist that?" "You're not." He pulled her closer, careful of his injuries. "Say you'll give us a real chance. Not a week-long trial, not a medical experiment. A real relationship. Even though it's dangerous? Even though people are literally trying to kill you because of me? Especially because of that. Life is short and violent in my world. I want to spend whatever time I have with you." Amara was quiet for a long moment. Then she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, tentative, nothing like the desperate passion Min-Jae had imagined. But it was perfect. After 5 years of feeling nothing, this soft brush of lips was everything. He kissed her back carefully, letting her set the pace. Her hands slid up to his neck, fingers threading through his hair. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-Jae rested his forehead against hers. Is that a yes? He asked. That's a yes. To trying. To seeing where this goes. She pulled back to look at him seriously. But you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll keep transitioning out of the criminal stuff. That you'll actually build something legitimate. I can't be with someone who hurts people for a living. I promise. I'm already working on it. And promise me you'll be honest about the danger. If someone's threatening me, I need to know. I can't be protected if I'm kept in the dark. I promise that too. She kissed him again, deeper this time. Min-Jae groaned into her mouth, 5 years of denied desire suddenly roaring to life. His hands roamed her back, her sides, learning her curves through her clothes. When she pressed against his ribs accidentally, he hissed in pain. She pulled back immediately. God, I'm sorry. Your injuries. We should stop. Don't stop. His voice was rough. I've waited 5 years to feel this. A few cracked ribs aren't going to stop me now. Min-Jae, you need to rest and heal. I need you more than I need rest. But she was already pulling away, her nurse instincts overriding desire. Let me see your injuries. Where were you shot? Reluctantly, he let her examine him. She made him take off his shirt, revealing the bandages and bruises. Her fingers were gentle as she checked the stitches. The wrapped ribs. You should be in a hospital, she scolded. I'm exactly where I need to be. She shook her head but couldn't quite hide her smile. You're impossible. You like it. Unfortunately, I do. She rebandaged his ribs properly, her touch clinical but caring. You're staying here tonight. I want to monitor you for signs of infection. I can't. My security. Your security is already outside my building, right? So stay. Sleep on my couch. Let me take care of you for once. The offer was too good to refuse. Min-Jae nodded. They spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, about his plan to handle Marcus Chen, about her concerns for her safety, about what a relationship between them would actually look like. I'm not moving into some bulletproof penthouse, Amara said firmly. I like my apartment. Then I'll upgrade your security here. Reinforced door, better locks, panic buttons. That seems excessive. You're dating a former crime lord. Excessive is baseline. She laughed. Former? You're still very much current. Working on the former part. Give me 6 months. Around midnight, Amara made up the couch for him, brought him pillows and blankets. When she started to leave for her bedroom, Min-Jae caught her hand. Thank you, he said, for giving us a chance. For not running when you had every reason to. Thank you for being honest with me. For trusting me enough to show me your weakness. She kissed him goodnight, soft and sweet, then disappeared into her bedroom. Min-Jae lay on her couch, staring at the ceiling, and let himself feel hope, real hope, for the first time in years. Tomorrow he would deal with Marcus Chen. Tomorrow he would figure out how to keep Amara safe while dismantling the empire that put her in danger. But tonight, he was in her home, breathing her scent, feeling more alive than he had in 5 years. Tonight was enough. Min-Jae woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of movement in the kitchen. For a moment, he was disoriented. His penthouse didn't smell like vanilla and cinnamon, didn't have warm morning light streaming through small windows. Then memory returned. He was in Amara's apartment, on her couch. She had let him stay. He sat up carefully, his ribs protesting. The pain was sharp and real, which meant Amara was nearby. He could feel her presence like a physical pull. She emerged from the kitchen carrying 2 mugs, wearing pajama pants and a tank top, her natural hair loose around her shoulders. Min-Jae's breath caught. She was stunning. Morning, she said, handing him coffee. How do you feel? Like I got shot and beat up, but better than I have in days. He took a sip. Perfect, strong, and black, the way he liked it. You remembered. You told me how you take your coffee on our second dinner. I pay attention. I noticed. He set the mug down and reached for her hand, needing the contact. The moment their skin touched, warmth flooded through him. Come here. She sat beside him on the couch, close enough that their thighs touched. Min-Jae wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her against his uninjured side. I could get used to this, he murmured into her hair. Waking up on my couch with cracked ribs? Waking up with you. Period. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee while morning light filled the small apartment. It was domestic and peaceful, nothing like Min-Jae's usual mornings of business calls and security briefings. I have to work today, Amara said eventually. 12-hour shift at the hospital. Min-Jae tensed. I don't like you being exposed like that. Marcus Chen could. I have a job, Min-Jae. I can't just stop living my life because someone made threats. I know. But let me have guards nearby, please. They'll be discreet. She sighed. Fine. But they can't interfere with my work, and they need to stay out of sight. I don't want my colleagues asking questions. I'll make sure of it. He kissed her temple. Thank you. His phone buzzed. A text from Sun-ho. Need you at the office. Important development on the Chen situation. Min-Jae showed Amara the message. I have to go. Will you be okay? I'll be fine. Go handle your business. She stood, pulling him up with her. But Min-Jae? Please be careful. I just agreed to this relationship. I'd like you to survive it. I plan to. He cupped her face, kissed her slowly. When they broke apart, both were breathing harder. I'll call you later. You better. At his office, Sun-ho had news. The two surviving attackers from last night had talked eventually. What they revealed made Min-Jae's blood run cold. Marcus Chen didn't just find out about the nurse randomly, Sun-ho said, pulling up surveillance photos on his computer. He's been watching you for weeks. He has someone on the inside, one of our lower-level guys feeding him information. Who? Kim Tae-yang. Works in our shipping operations. He's been photographing your movements, documenting everywhere you go. Sun-ho clicked through images Min-Jae at the Korean restaurant with Amara, walking on Venice Beach, standing outside her apartment building. Chen knows everything. Where she lives, where she works, her schedule. Min-Jae felt rage building in his chest. Where's Kim now? We have him, waiting in the basement. Good. I'll deal with him personally. Min-Jae stood. What about Chen's operations? What's his next move? According to the attackers, he's planning something big. They didn't have details, but it involves the nurse. He wants to grab her, use her as leverage to force you out of Long Beach. When? Soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. They weren't given a specific timeline. Min-Jae paced, his mind racing. Double the security on Amara. I want someone eyes on at all times. And I want to know the second Chen makes any move. Boss, maybe you should bring her somewhere secure. A safe house or... She won't go. She has a life, a job. I can't ask her to hide. Min-Jae ran a hand through his hair. But I can make sure she's protected wherever she is. He spent the next hour coordinating with his security team. 4 guards assigned to Amara, 2 visible at a distance, 2 hidden. Surveillance on all approaches to the hospital and her apartment. A backup team on standby in case of emergency. Then he went to the basement to deal with Kim Tae-yang. The traitor was tied to a chair, already bloodied from Sun-ho's preliminary questioning. He looked up when Min-Jae entered, fear stark in his eyes. Boss, I can explain. Explain how you betrayed me? Explain how you put an innocent woman's life in danger? Min-Jae's voice was deadly quiet. This should be good. Chen offered me money. A lot of money. Said he'd give me a position in his organization. So you sold me out for cash. Min-Jae circled the chair slowly. How long? 2 months, maybe 3. And the nurse? When did you tell him about her? Last week, after I saw you with her at that restaurant. Chen asked specifically if you were seeing anyone, said it would be valuable information. Kim's words came faster, desperate. I didn't know he'd threaten her. I just thought he wanted to know about your personal life. Min-Jae backhanded him across the face. Hard. The man's head snapped to the side. You endangered her. That's unforgivable. Boss, please. I'll fix it. I'll tell you everything Chen is planning. You already told Sun-ho everything during interrogation. You have nothing left to bargain with. Kim started crying. Please. I have a family. A wife, 2 kids. You should have thought about them before you betrayed me. Min-Jae nodded to Sun-ho. Make it quick, and make sure his family is taken care of financially. They don't deserve to suffer for his stupidity. He left before Sun-ho carried out the order. He had killed men before many men, but it never got easier. And right now, with Amara's influence softening him, making him want to be better, the violence felt heavier than usual. His phone rang. Amara's name on the screen. He answered immediately. Are you okay? I'm fine. Just on my lunch break. Your guards are very obvious. By the way, they're supposed to be discreet. 2 large Korean men in black suits standing outside the ER entrance aren't exactly subtle. He could hear the smile in her voice. But I appreciate the protection. I'll tell them to blend in better. How are your ribs? Any fever or signs of infection? I'm fine, Amara. That's not what I asked. Have you checked your temperature? Changed your bandages? Min-Jae smiled despite everything. No, Dr. Chen. Nurse Chen. And you need to take care of yourself. I'll come by tonight after my shift and check on you properly. You could stay over. At my place this time. A pause. Is that an invitation to see the famous penthouse? It's an invitation to spend the night with me. The penthouse is just where I live. I'll think about it. Her voice softened. Min-Jae, I have to ask. The man who betrayed you, what happened to him? He shouldn't have been surprised, she knew. She was perceptive. He's being handled. That means you're going to kill him. He put you in danger. He doesn't get to walk away from that. Silence on the other end. Then, I don't like it. I don't like that you solve problems with violence. I know. I'm sorry. But in my world, I know. In your world, that's how things work. She sighed. I'm not asking you to change overnight, but please try to find other solutions when you can. For me, I will, I promise. After they hung up, Min-Jae sat in his office and thought about what she'd said. She wasn't asking him to be someone he wasn't, just to try, to choose different paths when possible. He could do that. For her, he could do anything. Evening. Amara's shift ends. Amara walked out of California General at 7 p.m., exhausted from a long shift. She'd handled 2 cardiac arrests, 1 multi-car accident victim, and a steady stream of minor emergencies. All she wanted was to go home, take a hot shower, and sleep for 12 hours. But Min-Jae's invitation lingered in her mind. Stay over, see where he lived. Take this relationship to the next level. Was she ready for that? Her phone buzzed. A text from Min-Jae. Junho is waiting to drive you home. Or to my place. Your choice. She looked up and spotted the black Mercedes. Junho stood beside it, bowing slightly when he saw her. Amara made a decision. She walked to the car. Junho, I'd like to go to Min-Jae's place, please. If Junho was surprised, he didn't show it. Of course, Miss Chen. The drive took 30 minutes. When they pulled up to the luxury high-rise in downtown LA, Amara's eyes widened. The building was all glass and steel, modern and expensive. A doorman opened her car door with a respectful bow. Miss Chen, Mr. Kang is expecting you. Top floor. The elevator required a key card, which Junho provided. As it rose silently through the building, Amara felt her nerves increase. This was real. She was going to Min-Jae's home, his private space. This was crossing a line they hadn't crossed yet. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse. Amara stepped out and stopped, stunned. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire LA skyline glittering against the darkening sky. The space was massive. Open-concept living room, modern kitchen with high-end appliances, minimalist furniture in blacks and grays, art on the walls that probably cost more than her yearly salary. It was beautiful and completely impersonal. Min-Jae emerged from somewhere deeper in the penthouse. He'd changed into comfortable clothes, dark pants, and a fitted black t-shirt that showed off his lean frame. His hair was damp from a recent shower. You came, he said, and she could hear the relief in his voice. I came. She set her bag down. This place is... wow. It's too big for one person. Too cold. He moved closer. I've always hated it, actually, but I didn't care enough to change it. And now? Now I'm wondering if you'd help me make it feel like a home instead of a museum. Amara's heart squeezed. You're really serious about this? About us? Completely serious. He took her hand, pulled her further inside. I had dinner prepared. Are you hungry? Starving, actually. He led her to the dining area where the table was set for 2. The food smelled amazing Korean dishes she recognized from their previous dinners, plus a few new ones. Did you cook all this? She asked. God, no. I can barely make toast. My chef prepared it before leaving. He pulled out a chair for her. But I set the table myself. And I picked the menu based on what you liked before. They ate, talking about her day at the hospital and his day dealing with business. He edited out the part about Kim's execution. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by comfortable silences. After dinner, Min-Jae gave her a tour of the penthouse. Multiple bedrooms, a home office, a gym, a massive bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people. Everything was expensive and pristine. This is your bedroom? Amara asked when they reached the master suite. Yes. He stayed by the door, giving her space to explore. The room was huge, dominated by a king-size bed with black silk sheets. More windows showing the city. A sitting area with a couch and bookshelf. It was as impersonal as the rest of the penthouse. No photos, no personal touches, just expensive furniture arranged artfully. It's very clean, she said diplomatically. It's sterile, I know. Min-Jae leaned against the doorframe. For 5 years, I didn't care what anything looked like. Function over form. I slept here, worked here, existed here, but I didn't live here. And now? Now I want it to feel like a home. I want pictures on the walls. I want mess and personality in life. He moved closer. I want you here, making it feel warm. Amara turned to face him. Min-Jae, we've known each other for less than 2 weeks. I know. Normal people don't move this fast. I know that too. He cupped her face gently. But I've wasted 5 years being dead inside. I don't want to waste any more time now that I'm alive again. She leaned into his touch. I'm scared. Of me? Of how much I feel for you already. Of how fast this is moving. Of what it means that your brain literally needs me to function. She looked up at him. What if the magic wears off? What if you heal completely and realize you don't actually love me? You just loved how I made you feel. That won't happen. You don't know that. I do. He pulled her closer, careful of his injuries. Because even before Dr. Park explained the neuroscience, I knew what I felt was real. The physical response just made it obvious. But the emotional connection? That's all us, Amara. That's real. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. Stay tonight, he said softly. Not for anything physical. Just stay. Sleep here. Let me hold you. Let me prove this is about more than brain chemistry. Amara knew she should say no. Should go home, maintain some distance, protect her heart. But when she looked into his eyes and saw the vulnerability there, this powerful, dangerous man asking her to trust him, she couldn't refuse. Okay, I'll stay. Relief flooded his face. Thank you. He lent her clothes to sleep in one of his t-shirts that hung to her knees. While she changed in the bathroom, he changed the sheets to something softer than silk. When she emerged, he was already in bed, propped against the headboard, shirtless. The bandages on his ribs were stark white against his skin. Amara could see bruises blooming purple and yellow across his torso. Those look painful, she said, climbing into bed beside him. They are. But having you here makes it worth it. She settled against his uninjured side, her head on his shoulder. His arm came around her, holding her close. They lay in the darkness, listening to the city sounds far below. Tell me something, Amara said quietly. When you were poisoned 5 years ago, when you realized what you'd lost, what was the worst part? Min-Jae was quiet for a long moment. The worst part was feeling like I'd lost my humanity, like I'd become a machine going through motions, making decisions, but not feeling anything about any of it. I could hurt people without remorse, kill without guilt. There was no emotional consequence to anything I did. That must have been terrifying. It was freeing, in a horrible way. If you don't feel anything, nothing can hurt you. But it also meant nothing could bring you joy. His hand stroked her hair gently. I thought I would live the rest of my life like that, cold and empty. And then you walked into that ER, and everything changed. I didn't do anything special. I just treated your wound. You touched me with kindness. You looked at me like I was a person, not a monster. That was everything. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. You gave me back my humanity, Amara. How am I supposed to not fall in love with you after that? Tears pricked her eyes. I'm falling in love with you too. Even though it's crazy and fast and probably the worst decision I've ever made. Best decision, he corrected. Definitely the best. She tilted her head up, and he kissed her. Soft and slow, taking his time. His hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheekbone. She felt cherished, treasured, safe. When they broke apart, both breathless, Min-Jae rested his forehead against hers. I want you, he said, his voice rough. God, I want you so much. But tonight, I just want to hold you. Is that okay? That's perfect. They settled back into comfortable positions, wrapped around each other. Amara listened to Min-Jae's heartbeat, steady and strong under her ear. She felt his breathing slow as he relaxed, felt his hand continue its gentle stroking through her hair. Amara? He murmured, half asleep. Thank you for choosing me, for taking a chance on someone broken. You're not broken, you're healing. She kissed his chest right over his heart. We're healing together. Within minutes, his breathing deepened into sleep. Amara lay awake a bit longer, processing everything. She was in a Korean gangster's penthouse, in his bed, falling in love with him despite every logical reason not to. But her heart didn't care about logic. Her heart knew that when she was with him, she felt more alive than she ever had. that his vulnerability called to her healer's instincts, that his intensity matched something deep inside her that she'd always kept hidden. She was all in, despite the danger, despite the complications, despite the impossibility of their situation. She was all in. The next morning, Amara woke to find Min-Jae already awake, watching her sleep. "That's creepy," she mumbled, still half asleep. "You're beautiful in the morning. I'm a mess in the morning. My hair is probably everywhere." "It is. It's perfect." He kissed her nose. "I made coffee." "Well, the coffee maker made coffee. I pressed buttons." She laughed. "So domestic." "I'm trying." He sat up carefully. "I have to go to a meeting this morning. Business that can't wait. But I want you to stay here, where it's safe." Amara sat up too, suddenly alert. "What kind of meeting?" "The kind where I deal with Marcus Chen." Fear shot through her. "Min-Jae, no, it's too dangerous. I have to end this. As long as he thinks you're a viable target, you're in danger." He caught her hands. "I'm not going alone. I'll have 20 men with me, but I need to make it clear that threatening you was a mistake." "What are you going to do?" "Negotiate. Offer him a deal that doesn't involve you. And if he refuses," Min-Jae's expression went cold, "then I'll handle it another way." Amara wanted to argue, to tell him violence wasn't the answer, but she understood the reality of his world. Men like Marcus Chen didn't respond to polite requests. "Promise me you'll be careful," she said. "I promise." He kissed her thoroughly. "Stay here. There's food in the kitchen, entertainment systems, books, whatever you need. Junho will be outside if you need anything." "I don't need a babysitter." "You need protection. Please, Amara, let me do this. Let me keep you safe." She nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but you call me the second the meeting is over. I need to know you're okay." "I will." After Min-Jae left, surrounded by his guards, Amara explored the penthouse more thoroughly. She found his home office all dark wood and leather, surprisingly organized. His bookshelf held an eclectic mix: business books, Korean literature, medical textbooks from years ago when he dreamed of being a doctor. She pulled out one of the medical texts. It was old, pages worn from use. Notes in Korean filled the margins. This had been important to him once. This dream of healing instead of hurting. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then thought it might be Min-Jae calling from a different phone. "Hello? Amara Chen?" A man's voice. American accent. Not Min-Jae. "Who is this?" "Someone who wants to talk to you about your boyfriend. About what he really is." Ice flooded her veins. "I'm hanging up." "Wait. I'm Marcus Chen. I'm the one supposedly threatening you. But I think you should know the truth about Min-Jae Kang before you get in too deep." She should hang up. Should call Min-Jae immediately. But curiosity held her frozen. What truth? He's not transitioning out of crime. He's expanding. The legitimate business he's building? It's a front for human trafficking. Moving people across the Pacific, selling them to the highest bidder. Marcus's voice was smooth, persuasive. "Did he tell you that? Did he mention the containers full of desperate immigrants locked in shipping holds?" "You're lying." "Am I?" "Ask him about the shipment that came through Long Beach 2 weeks ago. 23 people, including children. Ask him what happened to them." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I don't traffic humans. That's a line I won't cross. And I thought you should know what kind of man you're sleeping with before you sacrifice everything for him." The line went dead. Amara stood in the middle of Min-Jae's sterile penthouse, her mind reeling. Marcus Chen could be lying. Probably was lying. This was psychological warfare, trying to drive a wedge between her and Min-Jae. But what if he wasn't? She grabbed her phone and dialed Min-Jae. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Fear mixed with doubt mixed with anger. She needed answers. Now. She called Junho. He answered immediately. "Miss Chen, is everything all right? I need you to take me to wherever Min-Jae is having his meeting. Right now." "Miss Chen, the boss said you should stay." "Junho, I'm not asking. Either you drive me or I'll call a taxi. But I'm going." A pause. Then, "I'll be right up." The drive across LA took 40 minutes. Junho tried to talk her out of it the entire way, but Amara was determined. She needed to look Min-Jae in the eye and ask him about the human trafficking. Needed to see his reaction. They pulled up to a warehouse in an industrial area. Multiple black cars were parked outside Min-Jae's and presumably Marcus Chen's. Armed men stood guard at every entrance. "Miss Chen, please." Junho tried one more time. "This is dangerous. The boss will kill me if..." Then he'll have to kill me first because I'm going in. She got out of the car and walked toward the warehouse entrance. The guards moved to stop her, but Junho barked something in Korean that made them step aside. Inside, she found a scene straight out of a crime movie. Two groups of men faced each other in the vast open space. Min-Jae stood at the front of one group, his face hard and cold, nothing like the vulnerable man who'd held her last night. Across from him was a Chinese-American man in his 50s who must be Marcus Chen. Both men turned when she entered. Amara? Min-Jae's expression shifted from shock to anger to fear in rapid succession. What are you doing here? You should be. We need to talk. Now. Her voice was harder than she'd ever heard it. About human trafficking. The warehouse fell silent. Marcus Chen smiled. She got my phone call. Min-Jae's face went white, then red with fury. What did you tell her? The truth. About the shipment 2 weeks ago. About what you really do with those shipping containers. Marcus's smile widened. Did you think you could hide it from her forever? That she'd never find out what kind of monster you are? Min-Jae's hand went to his gun. 20 of his men did the same. Across the divide, Marcus's men raised their weapons. Amara stood in the middle, suddenly realizing how catastrophically stupid coming here had been. Everyone lower your weapons, she said, her nurse voice cutting through the tension. Right now. To her shock, they actually did, or at least lowered them slightly. She turned to Min-Jae. Is it true? Are you trafficking humans? No. His answer was immediate and fierce. Absolutely not. Then what was the shipment Marcus is talking about? Min-Jae's jaw clenched. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. He looked at Marcus, then back at her. When he spoke, his voice was low. 2 weeks ago, a container came through Long Beach that I hadn't authorized. Someone in my organization, probably Kim. The trader had accepted money to move people. When I found out, I intercepted the shipment. And I found 23 people locked in that container. Sick, terrified, desperate. Children, Amara. There were children. His hands clenched into fists. I could have sent them back, or turned them over to immigration, or sold them to someone else. That's what Marcus thinks I did. What did you actually do? I got them medical attention, gave them money, connected them with immigration lawyers who could help them apply for asylum properly. Min-Jae's eyes held hers. Then I found everyone involved in accepting that shipment and made sure they understood that human trafficking is a line we never, ever cross. Some of those conversations ended violently. Marcus laughed. You expect her to believe that? You're a criminal, Kang. You don't have morals. I'm a criminal, but I'm not that kind of criminal. Min-Jae never broke eye contact with Amara. You wanted me to be better. This is me trying. Human trafficking, drugs, anything that hurts the truly vulnerable. I don't touch it. Never have, never will. Amara studied his face, looking for lies. She found none. Just desperate honesty and the fear that she wouldn't believe him. I believe you, she said quietly. Relief flooded his expression. Thank you. But we're not done talking about this. About all of this. She turned to Marcus. As for you, using me to get to him is pathetic. I'm not a pawn in your game. Marcus's smile faded. You're a liability for him. A weakness. I was trying to help you see that. The only thing you've helped me see is that you're exactly as dangerous as Min-Jae warned me about. She moved to stand beside Min-Jae, making her choice clear. We're done here. Actually, Min-Jae said, his voice cold. We're not. Marcus, here's my final offer. You stay out of Long Beach. I'll give you the San Pedro routes. They're less profitable but legitimate. In exchange, you leave Amara alone. Forever. You don't call her, follow her, or even think about her. And if I refuse, then I burn your entire operation to the ground. I have enough dirt on you to put you away for life, and I'm connected enough to make sure it sticks. Min-Jae's smile was deadly. Your choice. Business or war. Marcus considered this for a long moment. Then he nodded. San Pedro routes and you stay out of my territory in Chinatown. Done. They didn't shake hands, just nodded to their respective men to stand down. The tension drained from the warehouse slowly. As Marcus and his people filed out, he paused beside Amara. You're making a mistake with him, but I suppose you'll figure that out eventually. After they were gone, Min-Jae turned to her. Are you insane? Coming here like that, you could have been killed. You weren't answering your phone, and I needed answers. So you walked into the middle of a gang negotiation? He ran his hands through his hair, torn between fury and fear. Amara, This is exactly what I was trying to protect you from. I don't need protection from the truth. I need honesty." She stepped closer. "You should have told me about the trafficking shipment, about how you handled it. That's the kind of thing I need to know. I was going to tell you, tonight, after I dealt with Marcus. I didn't want you to worry. Well, I worried anyway. And then I almost believed his lies because I didn't have the whole story." Min-Jae pulled her into his arms, holding her tight despite his injured ribs. "I'm sorry. You're right. Full honesty from now on, even when it's ugly." She held him back, breathing in his scent, letting her fear drain away. "You really helped those people? The ones in the container? Every single one. I made sure they had what they needed." His voice was quiet. "You make me want to be better, Amara. This is what better looks like for someone like me. I can't undo my past, but I can choose differently going forward." "I know." She pulled back to look at him. "I believe you, and I'm proud of you for making that choice." They stood in the empty warehouse, holding each other, choosing each other despite everything. This was their reality. Dangerous, complicated, messy, but it was theirs, and Amara wouldn't trade it for anything. 3 months later, Amara stood in front of the mirror in Min-Jae's their penthouse, adjusting the emerald green dress she'd chosen for tonight. The penthouse looked different now. Photos lined the walls, her family in Kenya, Min-Jae's mother in Seoul, the two of them at various places around LA. Plants filled the windows, colorful throw pillows softened the stark furniture, books were scattered on surfaces. It looked lived in, loved in. It looked like home. Min-Jae emerged from the bedroom, devastatingly handsome in a dark suit. He stopped when he saw her, his breath catching in that way that still made her heart flutter. "You're beautiful," he said, moving to stand behind her. His hand settled on her waist, and she felt the familiar warmth spread through her at his touch. "You've said that every day for 3 months. I'll say it every day for the rest of our lives." He pressed a kiss to her neck. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be." Tonight was the grand opening of Amara's free clinic in Koreatown, a project she and Min-Jae had been working on together. He'd provided the funding and the building. She'd recruited staff and set up the medical protocols. It was designed to serve the community's most vulnerable immigrants, the uninsured, people who fell through the cracks of the healthcare system. It was Min-Jae's idea originally. "If you're going to heal people," he'd said one night in bed, "you should be able to heal everyone, not just those who can afford the ER." She had cried when he'd shown her the building he'd purchased. An old medical office that he'd renovated completely, equipped with state-of-the-art equipment, hired the best contractors, all in her name. "This is your dream," he'd said. "Let me help you make it real." The past 3 months had been transformative. Min-Jae had successfully transitioned most of his operations to legitimate business real estate, international shipping of legal goods, investment portfolios. He still had connections to his old world, still commanded respect and fear from certain circles. But he was trying, really trying. And his condition? Dr. Park's latest scans showed remarkable progress. The neural pathways were regenerating steadily. Min-Jae could now go several hours without Amara's presence before the numbness started creeping back. He still needed her, probably always would to some degree, but he was healing. "What are you thinking about?" Min-Jae asked, watching her face in the mirror. "How much has changed in 3 months? How different my life is now. Better or worse?" "Different." She turned in his arms, scary and wonderful and complicated, but I wouldn't change it. He kissed her deeply, one hand sliding into her hair. When they broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he murmured. "More every day. I love you too." They had said those words to each other countless times now, but they never lost their power. Every time felt like a small miracle. The drive to the clinic took 20 minutes. When they arrived, Amara's breath caught. The building was lit up, a banner across the front reading, Chen Community Health Center in English, Korean, and Spanish. People were already gathering, community members, local officials, medical professionals Amara had recruited. "You named it after me," she said, touching Min-Jae's arm. "Of course I did. It's your dream, your vision." He squeezed her hand, ready to change some lives. The next 2 hours were a blur. Amara gave a speech about accessible healthcare and community healing. Min-Jae stood in the back, watching with pride obvious on his face. Local leaders praised the initiative. Medical staff gave tours. The first patients were already being registered for appointments. Amara found herself talking with a young mother holding a sick child, immigrants from Guatemala who couldn't afford regular medical care. She examined the little girl right there, made notes about follow-up treatment, reassured the mother that all services were free. When she looked up, Min-Jae was watching her with something like awe. Later, during a quiet moment, he pulled her aside into the empty office she would use for administrative work. "What you're building here," he said quietly. "This is real. This matters. We're building it together. No, this is all you. I just provided resources. You're the one with the vision, the compassion, the drive to actually help people." He cupped her face. "Do you know how incredible you are? I'm just a nurse doing what nurses do, caring for people who need it. You're so much more than that." He kissed her softly. "You saved me, Amara. Not just my body, but my soul. And now you're saving others. You're the best person I know." Tears filled her eyes. "You're going to make me cry and ruin my makeup. Then I'll fall in love with you all over again without makeup." They were interrupted by a knock on the door. Dr. Park stood there, smiling. "Congratulations on the clinic opening," he said. "Truly impressive work." "Thank you, Dr. Park." Amara wiped her eyes. "I didn't expect to see you here. I wanted to come support you. And also," he pulled an envelope from his jacket, "I have Min-Jae's latest test results." Min-Jae tensed. They'd done another round of scans last week, monitoring his continued progress. "Doctor," Park opened the envelope and smiled. "The results are remarkable. Your neural regeneration has accelerated beyond what I thought possible. The damaged pathways are almost completely restored." "What does that mean?" Amara asked, though she suspected she knew. "It means Min-Jae is healing, truly healing. At this rate, within 6 months to a year, he should have complete restoration of function. He won't need..." "Doctor," Park paused delicately. "He won't be dependent on your presence anymore." The news should have made them both happy. It was good news, Min-Jae recovering, becoming whole again. But Amara felt a flutter of fear in her chest. What if Dr. Park was right 3 months ago? What if Min-Jae's feelings were tied to his neurological dependence? Once he was fully healed, would he still want her? Min-Jae must have seen something in her face because he immediately pulled her closer. "This doesn't change anything," he said firmly. "You don't know that. You can't." "I do know. Because I've been tracking this myself, paying attention to what I feel and when." He turned to Dr. Park. "Can you give us a moment?" After Dr. Park left, Min-Jae took both of Amara's hands. "Listen to me. 3 months ago, I couldn't be away from you for more than an hour without feeling the numbness return. Now I can go half a day. My physical dependence is decreasing, just like Dr. Park said. Okay, but my emotional connection to you? That's only getting stronger. I miss you more when we're apart, not less. I think about you constantly. I want to build a life with you, not because my brain chemistry demands it, but because you're the person I want to wake up next to every morning for the rest of my life." "How can you be sure?" "Because I know the difference now. The physical need, that's a hunger, an urgency, almost painful. But what I feel for you emotionally, that's peace. That's joy. That's wanting to be better, because you deserve the best version of me." He pressed her hand to his chest. "This isn't my neurons firing, Amara. This is my heart choosing you." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. What if you're wrong? What if in 6 months, when you're fully healed, you wake up and realize, then we'll deal with it together. But I'm not wrong. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "I'm going to prove it to you. Every single day, I'm going to prove that this is real." 6 months later, Dr. Park's prediction had been accurate. Min-Jae's scans showed complete neural restoration. He could go days without seeing Amara and feel perfectly fine, no numbness, no loss of sensation, full restoration of all functions. The miracle was complete, and he loved Amara more than ever. They had moved in together officially, combining her small apartment's warmth with his penthouse's space. The result was something uniquely theirs, a home that balanced both their styles. The clinic was thriving. Amara had hired 3 more nurses and 2 doctors. They were serving over 100 patients a week, making a real difference in the community. Min-Jae's business transformation was also complete. He'd divested from all illegal operations, focusing entirely on legitimate enterprises. He still had a reputation, still commanded respect, but now it was as a successful businessman rather than a crime lord. Some of his old crew had stayed with him, transitioning to legal work. Others had drifted away, unable to adapt. Sunho remained his right hand, now managing real estate portfolios instead of smuggling operations. Tonight, Min-Jae had something planned, something big. He'd told Amara he was taking her to dinner at their favorite Korean restaurant. She'd dressed beautifully, as always, in a blue dress that made her skin glow. But the restaurant wasn't their final destination. "Where are we going?" Amara asked, as Junho drove past the restaurant. "You'll see." They ended up at the beach, the same stretch of Venice Beach where they'd walked on their 4th date, talking until sunset. Min-Jae led her down to the sand, where a blanket and candles were already set up. "What is this?" she asked, smiling. "Do you remember the first time we came here? You told me about your dream of opening a clinic, about wanting to heal people who couldn't afford care. I remember. And I told you about wanting to be better, to build something legitimate, to be worthy of you. You are worthy of me. You've proven that 1,000 times over." Min-Jae took her hands, his heart pounding. 6 months ago, Dr. Park said I would be fully healed, that I wouldn't need you anymore. Do you remember how scared you were? I remember. You thought my feelings would disappear once I was healed, that I only loved you because of the neurological dependence. Min-Jae, we've talked about this. I know now. Let me finish. He smiled nervously. For the past 6 months, I've been completely healthy. My scans are normal. I can feel everything: pain, pleasure, joy, sadness, all of it. I'm not dependent on you physically anymore. He dropped to one knee. Amara's hands flew to her mouth. Oh my God, but emotionally? I'm more dependent than ever. I can't imagine my life without you. I don't want to imagine it. He pulled out a ring, a beautiful diamond with emeralds on either side, African and Korean stones combined. Amara Chen, you saved my life. You gave me back my humanity. You made me believe I could be better than my past. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. Yes, yes, of course yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. She kissed him back, laughing and crying at the same time. I love you, he murmured against her lips. Not because my brain needs you to function, because my heart chose you and keeps choosing you every single day. I love you too, so much. They held each other on the beach as the sun set, the future stretching out before them bright and possible. 1 year later. Epilogue. The wedding was small and perfect, a blend of Korean and Kenyan traditions held at a beautiful garden venue. Min-Jae's mother flew in from Seoul, finally accepting that her son had chosen his own path and his own partner. Amara's mother came from Kenya with Amara's younger siblings, all of them crying happy tears throughout the ceremony. Dr. Park officiated, making jokes about how he'd never expected a medical case study to end in marriage. Sun-ho was Min-Jae's best man. Amara's best friend Kira was her maid of honor. The ceremony was conducted in 3 languages, English, Korean, and Swahili, honoring both their heritages. When Min-Jae said his vows, his voice was steady and sure. Amara, 5 years ago I thought I had lost my humanity forever. I was wrong. It was just waiting for you to find it. You didn't just heal my body, you healed my soul. You showed me that it's never too late to choose differently, to be better, to love completely. I promise to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the miracle you gave me. I promise to support your dreams, protect your heart, and love you with everything I am. You are my light, my hope, my forever. Amara's vows were just as emotional. Min-Jae, when I met you, I saw a man who had been through hell and survived. But more than that, I saw a man willing to change, to grow, to become better. You've shown me that love isn't about perfection, it's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I promise to stand by you, to challenge you, to heal alongside you. I promise to build a life with you that honors both our pasts while creating something beautiful for our future. You are my partner, my love, my home. They kissed as husband and wife, while everyone cheered. The reception was joyful, Korean food and Kenyan food side by side. Traditional dances from both cultures, speeches in multiple languages. Min-Jae's mother and Amara's mother bonded over their shared concern for their children, eventually becoming friends. Late in the evening, Min-Jae pulled Amara onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. Happy? He asked, holding her close. Incredibly happy. You? More than I ever thought possible. He spun her gently. Thank you for taking a chance on a broken criminal in an ER at 2 a.m. Thank you for being brave enough to change, to heal, to love. They swayed together, and Min-Jae marveled at how far they'd come. From that desperate night when he'd first felt her touch, to this moment married, building a life together, both of them healing and growing. I have something to tell you, Amara said quietly. What? I saw Dr. Park last week. Had some tests run. Min-Jae pulled back to look at her, concerned. Is something wrong? No. Something's very, very right. She smiled, tears in her eyes. I'm pregnant. Min-Jae froze. We're going to have a baby. Due in 7 months. Joy exploded through him. Pure, complete joy. He lifted her off her feet, spinning her around while she laughed. When he set her down, he cupped her face in his hands. We're having a baby, he repeated, wonder in his voice. A family. Our family. Our family, she agreed. He kissed her then, pouring all his love and joy and gratitude into it. Around them, their guests cheered, but Min-Jae barely heard them. All he could focus on was this woman, his wife, who had given him everything. Later that night, in their hotel suite, they lay tangled together in the darkness. Do you ever think about that night in the ER? Amara asked. How different our lives would be if I'd been assigned to a different patient. All the time. I think about how close I came to never meeting you, to spending the rest of my life numb and empty. The doctors said it was impossible. Your recovery, I mean. They said nerve damage like yours was permanent. It was impossible. Until you. He placed his hand on her still flat stomach, where their child was growing. You're my miracle, Amara. You always will be. You're mine too. My impossible, wonderful, infuriating miracle. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, dreaming of the future of the child they would raise together, of the clinic that would grow and help more people, of the legitimate empire Min-Jae would build, of the love that would sustain them through everything. 5 years ago, Kang Min-Jae had been a man without hope, without feeling, without future. A poison had stolen his ability to be human, but Amara Chen had given it back. Not through medicine or science, though those had played their part, through something simpler and more powerful, through choosing to see him as worth saving, through touching him with kindness when he'd forgotten kindness existed, through loving him when he didn't know how to love himself. She had been his nurse, his healer, his miracle, and now she was his wife, the mother of his child, his forever. Some love stories begin with love at first sight. Theirs began with a touch in an emergency room at 2:47 inches the morning, a touch that changed everything, a touch that proved miracles were real. And in the end, that was all that mattered. 5 years later, final scene. Min-Jae stood in the doorway of his daughter's bedroom, watching Amara rock their 4-year-old daughter to sleep. Their son, 2 years old, was already asleep in the nursery next door. The penthouse had been transformed completely. Toys scattered across the floor. Children's books piled on tables. Colorful artwork covered the walls, drawings their daughter had made, photos of their growing family. It was chaotic and messy and perfect. Amara looked up and smiled at him. She was even more beautiful now than the night he'd first seen her. Laugh lines around her eyes, a few silver strands in her hair, the confidence of a woman who knew exactly who she was. She's almost asleep, Amara whispered. Min-Jae moved to sit beside her, placing a hand on their daughter's dark curls. She had Amara's eyes and his stubbornness, a dangerous combination. Tell me the story again, Daddy, their daughter mumbled, half asleep. About how you and Mommy met. Min-Jae and Amara exchanged glances. They'd told a simplified version many times. Daddy got hurt. Mommy was his nurse. They fell in love. One more time, Min-Jae said, kissing his daughter's forehead. A long time ago, Daddy was very sick. Not with a cold or a fever, but sick in a way that made him forget how to feel happy. That's sad, his daughter murmured. It was very sad. But then one night, Mommy walked into his hospital room, and just by being there, just by being kind and caring and wonderful, she reminded Daddy how to feel again. Was it magic? The very best kind of magic. The kind that comes from love. Their daughter smiled, her eyes closing. I'm glad Mommy used magic on you. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. After their daughter was fully asleep, Min-Jae and Amara retreated to their bedroom. They had early mornings ahead. The clinic was expanding to a second location, and Min-Jae had business meetings. But for now, they had this quiet moment. Do you ever regret it? Amara asked, settling into his arms. Walking away from your old life? Becoming domesticated? Min-Jae laughed. Domesticated? Is that what we're calling it? You went from feared crime lord to suburban dad. That's pretty domesticated. I went from half dead to fully alive. I'd say that's a good trade. He kissed her hair. I don't regret a single thing. Do you? Not even a little bit. though sometimes I miss the simplicity of just being a nurse before I became a clinic director, wife, and mother of 2. You can go back to just nursing anytime you want. You know that. I know. But I love what we've built. All of it. She looked up at him. We did good, didn't we? Made something real out of an impossible beginning? We did better than good. We did miraculous. They made love that night slower now than in those early desperate days, but no less passionate. Every touch still carried meaning. Every kiss still felt like coming home. And when they fell asleep wrapped around each other, Min-Jae counted his blessings. A wife he adored, 2 beautiful children, a legitimate business he was proud of, a life built on love instead of fear, all because 5 years ago, a nurse had walked into an examination room and touched a dying man with kindness. That single touch had saved his life, and it had saved his soul. Some miracles come from medicine, some come from science, but the best miracles, those come from love. If you loved Min-Jae and Amara's impossible love story, subscribe to our channel for more emotional romances that will keep you up all night. Hit that like button if their journey from a desperate ER encounter to forever touched your heart, and comment below with your favorite moment. Your support helps us bring you more stories about love conquering the impossible. Thank you for being part of this journey.